Hello everybody, this is Tip Top MTG here today with another Magic the Gathering video. In today's video, we are covering all of the spoilers that have come out today being January 8th for Kaldheim. So I'm going to talk about every spoiler that I have here. I'm going to talk about what I think about the card, whether I think it's cool, what I think its purpose is, will it make an impact, is it powerful? We're going to talk about all of the cards, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So why don't we just jump right into this? Starting off, we have a Raven form. It's a 3-cost blue sorcery, and it says exile target artifact or creature. Its controller creates a 1/1 blue bird creature token with flying. So this is actually pretty cool, but on top of that, it has a foretell cost, and its foretell cost is blue, which if you guys don't know what this does, this is only the second day. I did a whole video covering all the mechanics, but essentially you can pay 2 mana on your turn to kind of exile the card face down, and then later on you can play its foretell cost to cast the card, and you do have to pay, still respect timing rules. So essentially, you're paying the same amount of mana whether you foretell it first or not, which means it probably will fit well in foretell decks, but I honestly think it could fit well in most decks. I mean, this is a blue spell in Standard that exiles a creature or artifact. Maybe in Standard it won't be super huge, but I personally think, like, in Brawl and Historic Brawl, this is going to be a huge card. Not only is it just straight out removal for blue, it's not putting an enchantment, it is just turning it into a 1/1 bird. And, it is a pretty good card. I like this card. It's very similar to some other blue cards, and I think it's going to be a nice addition. I do worry, though, that blue might become way too control-y, and at common, this is a pretty crazy card, and I would not be surprised if it sees play, but I also wouldn't be surprised if it is a little light on play as well. It really depends. Next, we have a Giant's Amulet. It's a 1-cost blue artifact equipment, and when it enters the battlefield, you may pay 4 blue mana. Or not 4 blue mana, 3 and a blue mana. If you do, create a 4/4 blue giant wizard creature token, then attach Giant's Amulet to it. Equipped creature gets +0/+1, this creature has hexproof as long as it's untapped. And has. So essentially, as long as the creature is untapped, it has hexproof, and it equips for 2. Honestly, this kind of scares me for mutate decks. This is another kind of not Birds of Paradise, but Paradise Druid, but it's in equipment form, so I would not be surprised if we see, like, mutate decks, maybe not as a, like, meta strategy, but as a little thing on the side. Giant's Amulet would work kind of well in those. Especially because it does also create a non-human if you need one of those. So yeah, I think this is a pretty cool card, and it fits in Giants. I think it fits well in Mutate as well, if we're talking about Standard here, and maybe Historic. And outside of that, I don't know how well it's that necessarily going to do, but I think Hexproof while it's untapped is not an ability that you should look at lightly. I think it is definitely a very powerful thing, because a lot of the most powerful creatures in Magic don't go in for the attack. They do other nonsensical things that you may just leave untapped anyway. So this kind of helps with that. Next, we have Cosmos Charger. It's a 5, not a 5. I was going to say a 3, and then I was going to say a 5. It's a 4-cost. Blue creature, horse spirit, 3/3 with flash and flying, so this thing can kind of come out of nowhere. It can be part of, like, I know this kind of rotated out, but it could be part of a flash deck, it could be part of a flying deck, and it can be part of a foretell deck, because foretelling cards from your hand cost 1 less and can be done at any player's turn. Now, what this is saying is it's not, it has foretell for 2 and a blue, for instance. It is not reducing the cost of that 2 and a blue, it's reducing the cost of the 2 to exile it face down. And why that's cool is not, it is definitely cool. I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all. It is a good card in a foretell deck, and if you're running a foretell deck, you are probably running this. I think what's more interesting about it is the doing it on any player's turn. It makes it a much more reactionary thing. If your opponent dresses you, makes you, looks at your hand and gets to choose a card, you can, I'm gonna foretell this, or, you can do it a lot more in response, which I think foretell has a lot of power in. So yeah, I'm surprised we didn't see this ability on a legendary for Commander. But yeah, I definitely think that this is a really good card for foretell decks, and if you're not running foretell, you're not running this card. Next, we have Reflection of Legera. It's a 5-cost blue enchantment, and as it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Whenever you cast a spell of the chosen type, copy that spell. So yeah, if you name, I don't know, gods, every time you cast a god, it's copying it. Now, that's not necessarily a good thing, because most gods are legendary, but if we're talking about, I don't know, just any good spell, if we're talking about humans, for instance, you cast a human, you get 2 humans. This also works with tribal spells of the past. So if you have a Eldrazi tribal spell and you name Eldrazi, now you're duplicating Eldrazi, you're duplicating Eldrazi spells, very crazy things. This is going to work really well with changelings. It'll just double all your changelings. So yeah, I think that is a pretty crazy card, and I think it is a lot of fun, and it fits definitely into tribal decks. I could also see this going into maybe combo-y decks where you have one specific creature you're targeting with that creature type. But yeah, I definitely think this has potential. I like copying things. It's one of the mechanics I like. And so I'm all for more cards of that type. Next, we have Comas Faithful. It's a 3-cost black creature elf cleric with lifelink. So 3/1 for 3 with lifelink, not amazing. But when it dies, each player mills 3 cards. So this is good if you're trying to do life game. It's pretty good if you are trying to self-mill. It is a cleric, which means that maybe a brawl deck might like this as just another cleric and another source of life gain as well. I think this fits perfectly into, I forgot his name, but the Azorius rare legend that kind of makes it so when a cleric dies, you get one with lesser converted mana cost from your graveyard. This is perfect. Why? It's milling you and it's gaining life and it's a cleric, so that kind of works well in all of those fronts. So I definitely think it has a home, but again, it's a common. It's probably here just for draft and limited, but I do think it definitely has a place in maybe a more casual format like Brawl. Next, we have Village Rites. This is a reprint from Core Set 2021. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but it is a 1-cost black instant, and as an additional cost to cast it, you sack a creature, and then you draw 2 cards. It's generally a pretty good card, mostly in decks that care about sacrificing their creatures or don't care if their creatures die. It has new art, and it was last reprinted in Core Set 2021, like I said before, and essentially what that means is that a lot of times reprints, or not a lot of times, very rarely, reprints will do nothing. For instance, the Fabled Passage reprint in Core Set 2021 was only there for monetary reasons. However, this one is a little bit different. First off, it's a common, so it's not here for any money reasons, but it keeps it in standard longer. So next rotation, and you kind of have to look at this, next rotation, the sets rotating out will be Throne of Eldraine, Theros Beyond Death, Ikoria, and Core Set 2021, which means as of next rotation, if this didn't get reprinted, it would have not been legal in standard, but this kind of keeps it legal in standard for an additional year. So it's not doing nothing here. It's keeping this card in the format. Next, we have Hailstorm Valkyrie. It's a 4-cost black snow creature angel wizard, 2/2, with flying and trample. And you can pay 2 snow mana. Again, this is not. Lands will never say tap, add snow mana. They will tap for normal mana. And if they are a snow land or a snow permanent that produce that mana, it is also of the snow variety. And it gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Not awful. It's kind of double. It's like fire breathing in black, but it's also boosting toughness, and you have to do it 2 at a time. I know that's very specific, but it's kind of like a black fire breathing, but a little bit better. And the fact that it has flying and trample, honestly, not an awful card. And in limited, I expect this to be a powerhouse because all the basics are snow basics. And I believe you can use snow basics as just all of your lands. I'm not sure. No, actually, I think you do need to specifically draft them. I lied. You have to specifically draft the snow lands. So maybe this isn't that amazing in limited, but it is definitely a mana sink, and it may be something pretty good there. And at 4, have fire breathing on something for her 4 is pretty good. Add flying and trample to it, even better. Make it in black, pretty cool. Next, we have Seize the Spoils. It's a 3-cost red sorcery, and it says as an additional cost to cast the spell, discard a card. Then you draw 2 cards and create a treasure token. Honestly, I can see this going in a lot of different decks. I see this in a, like, I'm gonna copy spells deck. Why? Because anything that, like, if you have double visions in your deck, it is a spell that essentially says whenever you cast the first instant or sorcery, you copy it. Now I'm talking about jank here. This works really well. Generally cards like this do well because of the whole discard a card, draw 2 cards, and then you also kind of get it a little cheaper. I think if you're copying spells or caring about cards in your graveyard, this can be a decent card, although I may just use Tormenting Voices or Thrill of Possibilities. I don't know. Next, we have Calamitybearer. It's a 4-cost red creature giant berserker, 3/4. This was leaked, but we are getting the confirmation of it. Essentially, if a giant source you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that. So if you're running a giant deck, you are probably putting this in it. I really don't see it having any other place outside of that, except for the fact that this is a 6/4 for 4. Maybe you do see it in like a mono red deck along with Bone Crusher Giant. Maybe we do see a mono red kind of burn giant deck, and this fits right into that. But I genuinely think this needs to go with a lot of giants or shapeshifters. Next, we have Goldspan Dragon. It's a 5-cost red creature dragon, 4/4 with flying and haste. And whenever it attacks or becomes the target of a spell, create a treasure token. So you attack, you get a temporary mana. And if it is going to be targeted or like die, you get a mana. Here's the thing about it. It also doesn't say target of a spell your opponent's control. So if you target it with something, it also creates a mana. The other thing is that it also says treasures you control have tapped, sack this artifact, add 2 mana. So not only are you getting 1 mana every time this is happening, you're getting 2. And so this is another, feels like we get like 1 a set. Maybe not Zendikar Rising now that I'm thinking about it. No, yeah, Zendikar Rising. I think. A Leyline Tyrant? I don't remember. It seems like every set we seem to get like a 5/4 cost red dragon. That's really awesome. And I feel like red mid-range could actually be a thing. We have this mixed with Leyline Tyrant, which makes it so that red mana doesn't disappear as phases end. And then now you're producing all of this mana. Of course, it's a little bit different here. Then you mix that with that one dragon that deals damage equal to the CMC of things entering. I definitely want to build this deck and may play it on stream. So yeah, seems very interesting. And it also has haste. Pretty good card. Next, we have Sculptor of Winter. It's a 2-cost green snow creature, elf rogue, 2/2, and you can tap to untap target snow land. Yeah, this feels like something that would kind of go combo-y with something. First off, it is a rogue, which is nice for party decks. It is a snow thing, which is nice for snow decks, and it is an elf, so that's nice for elf decks. So this is, assisting 3 different limited themes. However, it also untaps snowlands. Any creature that kind of has an ability that's just untap something, be careful. There's probably some janky, convoluted way to go infinite with it, but if it's janky and convoluted, I guess it's fine. But yeah, I may look into seeing if there's some way you can make like a land tap for enough mana, because if you get a snowland, right, that taps for at least 3 mana, I believe Gauntlets of Light cost. No, I think you need it to tap for at least 4. But Gauntlets of Light is a card that lets you untap from the creature that's enchanted by it using mana. So then you can untap it infinitely. I don't know. Maybe I'll do an infinite combo deck. I normally do one with every standard set release. So yeah, if you want to see that, let me know. Next, we have this card, which I will translate into Glaciate. It's a 3-cost green snow enchantment aura. It says Enchant Land. I don't know why it's not there. Enchanted Land becomes a snow land. So boom, that really helps with that whole infinite combo I was just talking about. And when Enchanted Land is tapped for mana, its controller adds an additional mana. That also helps with the combo. Now I'm thinking if you go into Historic, we have Lotus Field plus that card and this card. Goes infinite mana. Woo. It's also 1 additional mana of any color, which really helps with Gauntlet of Light. Yeah, this card mixed with the other card can probably do some pretty busted things. But again, they are kind of janky infinite combos, so I think doing busted things is kind of fine. Next, we have Path to the World Tree. It's a 2-cost green enchantment, and it says, when Path to the World Tree enters the battlefield, search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. So you're putting it into your hand, but that's not awful. You're also getting some green devotion on the board. But then you can pay 2 and every color of mana and sacrifice it to gain 2 life, draw 2 cards, make target opponent lose 2 life, deal 2 damage up to 1 target creature, and create a 2/2 green bear creature token. So you get a bunch of 2s. Unsurprisingly, the white effect is the worst with 2 life. But yeah, I mean, paying 7 mana to do all that maybe isn't the greatest feeling, but the fact that it ramps you and fixes your colors early means that this is probably a really good and limited. You're probably never going to get to that ability, but it's a nice way to... It is a basic land, which does definitely hinder the card. If it wasn't that, that would be pretty insane. I don't think it'll be crazy popular, but I can definitely see some decks running it. Next, we have Kolbori, God of Kinship. It's a 4-cost green legendary creature god, 2/4, and it says as long as you control 3 or more legendary creatures, Kolbori gets +4/+2 and has vigilance, so it will be a 6/6, and with vigilance, pretty good for 4. And then also it counts itself as a legendary creature, so you only need 2 others. Then you can pay 2, tap, and look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a legendary creature from among them and put them into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library. So she's gonna care if you have enough legendary creatures and then help you go get more. Probably pretty good in a combo-y deck where you're looking for another legendary creature. It helps you get that first ability off. Yeah, not a bad card. And then she's also a modal double face card, so don't forget that. She's also the Ringheart Crest, which is a 2-cost green legendary artifact. And as it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type, tap to add green, spend this mana only to cast a creature spell of the chosen type or legendary spell. So yeah, if you're in a legendary deck or a tribal deck, this is not a bad mana rock. I mean, it only taps for one color, so maybe it's not my favorite, but the fact that you can also cast a creature that then helps you go get cards is pretty good. It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I don't love tapped monocolored lands, but the fact that you can also play a Galabed Recovery makes it a pretty good card, and I think these Modal Double-Faced Gods are going to be pretty good. Speaking of modal double-faced gods, we are getting apparently both mythic and rare versions of god, not of the same god, but we're going to get mythic and non-mythic rare gods. We have three cost. We have a 3-cost green legendary creature god 1/4 with vigilance, and you can tap to add 1 mana of any color, and then other legendary creatures you control have vigilance and tap to add 1 mana of any color. So she's gonna kind of give all of your creatures that are legendary the ability to tap for mana. So here's another, green caring about legendary creatures, but it can also enter as the Prismatic Bridge, which is Wooburg, for a legendary enchantment that says, at the beginning of your upkeep, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature or planeswalker card. Put that card onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This seems like an insane commander deck. Why? Because you can pay 5 mana, Wooburg, and you are just free casting things. But the catch is, it's not a creature, so it's much harder to destroy. And if you are needing help with mana, Esika, God of the Tree, kind of has your back there as well. So she can ramp you in the beginning and then maybe come back as the Prismatic Bridge later. I definitely like the card. I will probably throw it in like my Joda deck, even though it is already a Wooburg card. Not only will it help me with my mana fixing, but it will also be kind of another way to start cheating things out onto the battlefield. So yeah, I definitely think this is an interesting card that has a lot of potential. Next we have Tavare. He's a 4-cost green legendary planeswalker. Tavare, he has 3 loyalty, so 3 loyalty for 4 mana. Not bad, not awful, not great, but he has the ability, elves you control have tap, add black. So this is the 3rd planeswalker to have a passive ability. I really think they're going to start moving towards every planeswalker having a passive in the future. He has a +1 that says, put a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target elf, not bad. Untap it, not bad, especially when your elves can tap for like 30 bajillion mana. It gains Death Touch until end of turn. Yep, now it's a humongous, Marwyn that taps for 20 mana and is bigger because you put a counter on it. Very, very powerful in an elf deck. Then you have a 0 ability, which is just create a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token, which then you can, boost up later. And it also, by the way, taps for mana as long as Tavare is alive. And then you can use his -6, which says you get an emblem with whenever you cast an elf spell, it gains haste until end of turn. I'm kidding, it does more. And you draw 2 cards, which is pretty insane because a lot of the time it's one of those things where it's like you can cast as many elves as you want, but you're running out of them. So the fact that you can pretty much just cast an elf into an elf into an elf is pretty insane. And this emblem kind of stacks, so if you got 2 of them, which is insane, but you technically could because you probably have enough blockers to keep them alive. You can like draw 4 cards, and at that point you won the game. So yeah, pretty good in an elf deck. It's very niche though. You have to play him in an elf deck, otherwise he's doing very little. I mean, I guess he is creating mana generators, but if he dies, then so do their ability to generate mana. So I don't know, probably only going in an elf deck. But I guess in limited, I could definitely justify putting this in the deck. I mean, you play him, you 0 him, he's now a mana dork. Now you got a planeswalker and a mana dork for 4 mana, and then you can maybe make him bigger, you can maybe make more. So I could definitely see justifying playing this in a non-elf deck in like a limited sense. Next, we have Forging of the Tyrite Sword. It's a 3-cost red and white, not legendary, but enchantment saga. And steps 1 and 2 are create a treasure token, okay? And then step 3 is search your library for a card named Halvar, God of Battle, or an equipment card. Reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. So we're actually getting a card that says go get specifically another card. They generally don't do this outside of Planeswalker decks, so it's interesting to see that this is a thing that they're doing. I wonder if we're going to get a saga for each of the gods that help you go tutor them. But if your deck definitely cares about Halvar, this is a nice way to make sure that you get him every game, or at least, improve your odds. Next, we have the Trickster Gods Heist. This is a 4-cost, it's a 4-cost, blue and black, not legendary. Why can I not read why can I not speak and why can I not read today? Enchantment Saga. It says you may exchange control of 2 target creatures. Okay, already for 4 mana, that's not awful. Then you have the fact that you get to exchange control of 2 target non-basic, non-creature permanents that share a card type. So You could exchange 2 enchantments, 2 artifacts, 2 lands that aren't basics. This is a really crazy thing. I mean, 2 planeswalkers even. Yeah, this card, I like it. I mean, I hate it because I don't want to play against it, and Rogues does not need more fuel for their fire, but it's definitely a good card. Target player loses 3 life, you gain 3 life because, well, why not? Yeah, this is an insane card in my opinion. Even just the step 1 is not that bad for 4 mana. And so you add on to the fact that you also get to do the other things, and it's also like a saga that can be exploited in other ways. Pretty good card. Next, we have Firja, Judge of Valor. It's a 5-cost white and black legendary creature, Angel Cleric. Angel Tribal for this set, Cleric Tribal for Zendikar. Legendary tribal for this set. It has flying and lifelink, and it's a 2/4 that says when you cast your second spell each turn, look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put one of them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. Okay, so this took a turn from me expecting it to be like gain life equal to the highest CMC among them or something like that, and just went into whenever you cast your second spell each turn, it cantrips itself, and you're filling your graveyard. Yeah, I honestly think this is a pretty good commander. I mean, you're stuffing your graveyard, and yes, you do need things to do with that, but you're also hand-picking cards. You're making it so that, you know, if you're casting more than 2 spells, you're not losing cards unless you're casting or playing more than 2 lands and cards per turn. Like, if you cast 2 spells per turn and you're not drawing lands, for instance, you replace one because you draw a card every turn, and then your second one replaces itself with her ability. Yeah, pretty crazy card. I don't think it's broken in any way, but I definitely think it is powerful. Next, we have Cosmo Serpent. It is a 7-cost Simic legendary creature serpent. This card is insane. It's a 6/6, and it says this spell can't be countered. So if you wanted to deal with this, sorry, you gotta let it hit the battlefield. But then at the beginning of each upkeep, create a 3/3 blue serpent creature token named Comas Quail. Now, that does not say at the beginning of your upkeep, it says each upkeep. So if you can't kill it before your upkeep, they are at least getting 9 power for 7 mana, which I guess is fair for blue-green. But then they have another ability, sacrifice another serpent. Choose one. Tap target permanent. Its activated abilities can't be activated this turn, so they can stop you from prevent from murdering Koma. But then also, he can give himself indestructible. So essentially, if you don't deal with him by the first upkeep, then he's gonna always have indestructible. And so you either need 2 removal spells, and it has to be that turn, otherwise they're going to build these up and can activate it multiple times, or an exile spell. So this card is going to be impossible to get rid of, is extremely expensive, but not really because we're in Simic here. This card is going to be insane, in my opinion. I think it'll definitely be in Standard, and maybe that's just me being pessimistic, maybe that's just me seeing that Ramp has been in the meta for like 30 billion years, and so that the next biggest Simic drop is going to be good. And so, like, I just don't really have much hope for this card. It's going to be incredibly powerful. Then we have some lands. We have rettagar Stronghold. It's a land. It enters the battlefield tapped. It adds for a color. And then you can pay 2 of the other color and the color it taps for, which are white and green, and tap it and sack it to do an effect. I'm assuming this will be a cycle. You can put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures that you control. They gain vigilance and lifelink until end of turn. Pretty good. You can activate this ability only anytime you can activate a sorcery. Pretty good. I'm expecting a cycle of these. It's kind of weird, the amount of special lands. We have snow lands, snow duels, we have pathways, and we have these. So there are a lot of lands in this set. And then we have World Tree, which is a lot to break down, but it enters the battlefield tapped. You can tap and add a green, but if you have 6 or more lands you control have tapped to add mana of any color, so then boom, they just can tap for any color. And then if you can pay 10 mana, which means essentially it doesn't matter what colors they are, because the World Tree is going to let them tap for anything, assuming you're actually paying for this with lands. Sacrifice the World Tree, search your library for any number of god cards, put them onto the battlefield, then shelf your library. So yeah, you get all the gods. All the gods are pretty good, but here's another thing, you get all changelings as well. Yeah, you essentially crack that, you probably win the game if it's in your deck. I definitely want to build a deck around this. If I get enough of them, I will do that. Maybe play it on stream, maybe do just a video on it. But yeah, I'm excited about that. Either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed, please hit that like button, subscribe to see more of this. I'm also probably doing a story reading today of the kind of side story that they release on Fridays, and I'll be doing story readings probably into the future, and I'll be doing spoilers, of course, throughout the next week or 2. So yeah, if you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe. I will see you guys in the next one.